Okay, so you're here, ready for another deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at something pretty fundamental to our modern world, fiber optic cables.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
We've got a ton of information here, and our mission with this deep dive is to figure out what exactly these cables are and why they're so incredibly important.
Yeah, they're not the most exciting topic, but
Without, getting too lost in the weeds.
right, we're not going to get too technical.
Exactly.
We're going to keep it approachable.
So, at its heart, what is a fiber optic cable?
Well, imagine sending data not as like electrical pulses, like the old way of doing things,
Right.
but as flashes of light.
Okay.
That's the core idea.
Interesting.
A fiber optic cable, it uses incredibly thin strands of glass or plastic to guide these light pulses.
Okay.
So think of it like a microscopic, super efficient light pipe
Oh, okay.
carrying information.
So light instead of electricity.
Exactly.
That's the big switch because the old school copper cables, we used to use those, use electrical signals, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So what's the immediate payoff of going with light?
Well, one of the first major advantages is that they're immune to electromagnetic interference.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember ever getting static on an old radio, when another electronic device was nearby?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
that's electromagnetic interference.
Okay.
Because fiber optic cables use light. They're completely immune to that kind of noise.
Huh, interesting.
This means a much cleaner, more reliable stream of data, free from disruptions.
Gotcha. So no more digital static.
You'd think.
Okay, cool. Now here's something that always gets me really excited. Bandwidth.
Yeah.
All of our sources talk about significantly higher bandwidth with fiber optics.
It's a game changer.
What does that actually mean for, how we experience the digital world?
Think of bandwidth like the capacity of a pipe.
Okay.
Copper cables have a certain size.
Uh-huh.
Fiber optic cables have a vastly larger one.
Okay.
This means they can carry a massive amount more data at the same time. So for you, that translates to things like being able to stream ultra-high-definition video without any buffering,
Nice.
downloading huge files in seconds,
Sweet.
and generally experiencing a much faster and smoother online experience.
Okay.
Especially when lots of devices are connected.
Makes sense.
Imagine the difference between like a tiny garden hose
Yeah.
and a huge fire hose.
Okay.
That's the jump in data carrying capacity.
A fire hose of data. I like that.
That's a good analogy.
So what about how far this data can travel?
Right.
I know my Wi-Fi, sometimes feels like it has a pretty short leash.
Yeah, for sure.
How do fiber optics compare over distances?
That's another key win for fiber.
Okay.
Our information highlights that fiber optic cables can transmit data over much greater distances with far less signal loss compared to copper.
Oh, wow.
With electrical signals, you often need boosters along the way to keep the signal strong.
Right.
Light signals in fiber degrade much less, allowing for continent-spanning connections
Wow.
with minimal loss of data integrity.
So this is what makes global internet communication possible.
Exactly.
Okay, wow. So to quickly sum it up, light base,
Right.
immune to interference, massively more data capacity,
Yep.
travels vast distances with minimal loss.
That's right.
Sounds like we've landed on the core reasons why this technology is so dominant.
I think so.
We set out to understand what fiber optic cables are and why they matter.
Right.
And it seems pretty clear that they're not just cables.
No.
They're the unseen infrastructure powering so much of what we do.
They really are.
Makes you wonder,
It does.
given all of these inherent strengths, incredible speed,
Yeah.
unwavering reliability,
That's amazing.
and the ability to literally span continents,
Right.
how will fiber optic technology continue to shape the next wave of innovations and applications?
I think that's a question everybody's asking.
How's it going to impact our lives and our work? What new possibilities does this powerful infrastructure unlock?
That's the exciting part.
That's something to think about.
It is.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me, and we'll see everybody next time for another deep dive.
See ya.